it's a 1,700 page guidance basically that requires them to phase out methane burning or flaring and other practices. And they say that compliance would contradict with state guidelines. And would just be really burdensome. One guy whose company was just 15 people said that, going line by line like the EPA requests and sort of ensuring compliance with every piece of equipment would basically put his company out of business because they only have 15 employees.
Sure.
So it's definitely something that they are hoping to examine and hoping that EPA will adjust for in the months and the years ahead.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by energy and environment reporter Breanne Deppisch. Breanne, growing economy, shrinking emissions. Talk a little bit about this new milestone.
Absolutely. So the Rhodium Group put out a new preliminary analysis recently that basically said that for the first year since before the pandemic, the U.S. economy expanded at the same time as emissions actually shrank. That's due to some notable declines in two sectors. And it's a pretty important milestone because, typically we see emissions grow alongside economic growth. But while it's a significant milestone, they said it remains far short of the rate of emissions reductions needed to meet Biden's target and the targets under the Paris Climate Accord.
So the Biden administration has a new methane rule. Are industry groups happy about it?
Industry groups are not happy. They're actually quite the opposite. Primarily, actually, it's not even the big companies. It's the small independent producers. These were some of the folks who testified before the House Energy Subcommittee earlier this week. These included people that on average employ a dozen or so employees. They actually make up more than 90% of oil production and natural gas production in the U.S. And they say that the methane rules actually they're duplicative with current state guidelines, which already have a reporting requirement. And they just really enact these it's a 1,700 page guidance basically that requires them to phase out methane burning or flaring and other practices. And they say that compliance would contradict with state guidelines. And would just be really burdensome. One guy whose company was just 15 people said that, going line by line like the EPA requests and sort of ensuring compliance with every piece of equipment would basically put his company out of business because they only have 15 employees.
Sure.
So it's definitely something that they are hoping to examine and hoping that EPA will adjust for in the months and the years ahead.
So deep in the heart of Texas, I forget whether it's 3 claps or 4 claps.
I think 4.
I think
I'm from
it is
Texas.
4.
I should know this.
You should know these things. We'll have to test
Yes.
you next week. But so what's going on with the power grid in Texas?
So much is going on with the power grid. Basically, right now, what's going on is they're preparing for a major winter freeze. This is expected to drive record power consumption yet again. They're expecting this to break previous records by around 40 megawatts. This is a pretty big deal, and as like any winter event in Texas, there's a lot of fears of a potential repeat of Uri. That was the winter storm in 2021 that left millions of people without power and killed 246 Texans. Since then, there have been efforts to weatherize the grid and basically firm up its natural gas capacity, ensure that transmission can come online. These backup generators in case of a freeze. But many people say, including the U.S. grid regulator NERC, they said in their most recent report that Texas has still not done enough to address these shortfalls. So a lot is to be determined. Some of it will depend on how much wind there is during this particular event. That could help Texas use its renewables to get through. But yeah, lots to be determined, and we will see.
So there's FERC and NERC?
There's FERC, NERC, I'm sure some other
Twerk.
as well. Exactly. Yeah. That's the final one.
Thank you, Breanne.
Thank you, Jim.
You can read Breanne and subscribe to our Daily on Energy newsletter at washingtonexaminer.com.